So, welcome everybody to Midweek Mindfulness. It's great to be here with all of you as always. Uh, um, Leah and I were just talking about how this is such a stressful time for so many people, and it just continues to grow and build. Whether you're on a college campus or in a work environment or whatever that happens to look like for you. Um, Again, just we're coming into the political season. Um, we're looking at a slow rise of COVID across the country. Um, it can be really, really hard to have all of that, right? That we're managing mentally and emotionally as we're going about all the things that we normally would do anyway. So whether it's going to work and performing there, or going to school and performing in that way, or taking care of our families, or even just our day-to-day living, it's it can be exhausting to carry around those extra pieces all the time. And so that's one of the joys of meditation and mindfulness, is it gives us a chance to, number one, build our resilience to be able to manage that extra weight and those extra things that we're carrying around, as well as um, to, in the long run, actually rewire and reprogram ourselves to not have as strong of a stress response when things like this occur. The long-term studies of meditation practitioners demonstrate that you can actually reduce the size of the amygdala in time. And the amygdala is the part of the brain that I like to think of it as, or as some people call it, the lizard brain, right? So it's been around with human beings for a very, very, very long time. Um, it's it's the part of the brain that reacts and responds to our environment whenever there's a threat or any kind of danger. So, um, so it's kind of the foundational element of fight or flight response. Most people know about fight, flight, and freeze. All three of those are very often very appropriate responses to high stress situations. The challenge comes when we're living our lives and we're having those stress responses not to oncoming traffic, which would be totally appropriate, or a loose dog in the neighborhood, which could be totally appropriate. Instead, we're having that kind of stress response to the number of emails in our inbox, right? Or a particular job assignment that feels like a lot in this moment. And so then that stress response activates, the amygdala activates, that sets off our adrenals, then we get our epinephrine, our adrenaline, or our norepinephrine, and our fight or flight, the cortisol that then supports that and lengthens it out, which would be so helpful if we needed a sustained, you know, ability to flee a significant challenge that we were facing, or to swim, to stay alive, or something like that. Those would be so beneficial to have, and we're so grateful for them during those moments in our lives. But they're really kind of counterproductive when we're just dealing with our day-to-day challenges. So mindfulness and meditation can help us. So at what the brain fires, it rewires. So we practice sitting and calming and self-soothing, right? And then watching what the mind comes up with and coming back to our breath, back to our breath, back to our breath. We learn to notice that the mind can be very unreliable, right? Walt Whitman's famous for saying, I have lived through thousands of catastrophes, a couple of which actually happened, right? Because we tend to imagine the very worst on a regular basis happening over and over and over again. So in mindfulness and meditation, we imagine the worst, and that's fine. We take note of it. We gently, right, drop it in the river of thought and let it flow on down. And we come back to the breath, back to the body. Back to relaxing in this moment, in this place where we're perfectly safe and all is well in the world. And this is really how we evolved. We evolved for the far vast majority of the time being very relaxed, without a whole lot really going on, you know, browsing for some food, maybe doing a little self maintenance, working with the tribe or the pack. So, so why don't we go ahead and get practicing? So go ahead and find your comfortable position, whether you're sitting up with a nice tall back or leaning back against something that is helpful to you. Some of us like to recline if that's more beneficial. The the key is to be physically relaxed and mentally alert. And we're going to go ahead and just start with, we're going to invite the bell to begin our meditation. And as I invite the bell, I want you to notice what your mind does with the sound of the bell. When the bell fades away, noticing the movement of the mind as we shift over to the breath, noticing the coolness on the in breath, the slight warmth on the out breath. Really slowing down our breathing. Lengthening the out breath, telling our body that everything is okay in the world. We're safe at this time and in this place. Everything's okay. We're essentially mirroring the same breath that we use as we sleep. And if we were in danger, our bodies wouldn't let us sleep. So the lengthening of the out breath, the slowing of the in breath sends those signals to the body that all is well in the world. And you'll notice that with each out breath, the body relaxes a little more and a little more. You can feel it get a little heavier and a little heavier. letting your body sink down into the pillow, down into the floor, down into the chair. Just feeling gravity's pull. Feel how it anchors us to the planet in a safe and meaningful way. And as thoughts come into the mind about how the world is or how things are in our world, take note of what your mind finds to be important so that we're not disregarding it or dismissing it, but simply prioritizing the body and the breath in this moment. So take note, release the thought, and return to the breath, return to the body. Sometimes we feel like the mind will never quiet and it just won't keep still. And that's okay. That's the nature of the mind. You can try a slow count to 10, counting each in breath and each out breath, or perhaps just mentally saying to yourself, I know that I am breathing in, I know that I am breathing out. And then when you feel like you've managed that to a count of 10 or for 4 or 5 times, then just focus on the breath again. Not judging the experience in any way, just noticing what's happening and focusing on continuing to return to the breath, return to the breath again and again. Notice what's happening now. And if you've wandered, that's okay. No judgment. Just come back to the breath. Back to this breath in this moment. Noticing the connection of the breath and the body. Maybe playing with your breath a little, noticing its length, its depth, making it longer and deeper, or maybe more gentle and shallow. And then noticing how your body responds to the breath. Really noticing the sensation of relaxation throughout your body, or lack thereof, right? If you're noticing tension, other feelings, just accepting what's there without resistance. As we notice the breath moving in and out, maybe practicing a little gratitude for the ability to breathe freely, the opportunity to be able to sit for 30 minutes in the middle of our week. Being functional, and however able and able-bodied we are, just feeling the gratitude for that as we begin to notice our breath, deepening it, lengthening our exhale. Maybe beginning to wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes as I invite the bell to bring our meditation to an end. Again, I invite you to notice your response to the bell as we prepare to rejoin the world and engage in our daily lives. And that brings our meditation to an end. Thank you as always, everyone, for coming and being here today, sharing your energy with the room. We're so grateful to have you here. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.